All right, it's RealGM Radio. However you're tuning in on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, welcome to the show. On today's episode, I'm going to be joined by Baraheni today. You know him from the Athletic NBA show, one of our favorites to talk to around here. He's going to help me rank the top 25 players in the NBA right now. Should be a fun one. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of debate, a lot of surprises with my rankings, I think. But let's just jump right in. This should be a fun one. All right, S, thanks so much for jumping on, man. I'm really excited for today's episode. I don't know why I decided that now is a good time to rank the players, but here we are, January 15th, 15 days into 2026. We're going to zoom out. We're going to look at the league. We're going to try to decide who the top 25 players in the league are. So there's been a bunch of talk about like All-Star. Obviously, the votes are due at the end of the week and stuff like that. And I was like, we could do All-Star picks, but like that, everybody's doing that. That's boring. Let's just rank the players. I don't care about games played. Stats obviously matter, stuff like that. But you and I watch a ton of NBA basketball, and I think we're the people to decide this. I think we're the best people to make these decisions.
Yeah, I like it. We are the be-all and end-all for the top 25 in the NBA. This was hard. This was very hard. You threw it at me, and I'm like, all right, I got to try to figure out how am I going to organize this thing. I ended up doing a list of maybe like 40 players, and then there's a bunch of honorable mentions, and there's 25 guys. I'm kind of curious about one player that you have on here, where you have this one player, if you have him in your top 25. He is a former Miami Heat player also, so this is kind of par for the course. But anyways, we'll get into it. Yeah,
trying to figure out where LeBron is
there you go.
That's it. I moved him up and down on my rankings, probably within like a 7-spot range, and I'm not sure that I feel great about where I ended up, but I feel as best as I have. Before we get into the top 25, and we'll go 25 to 1 because I think that's the best way to do it.
Okay.
Some honorable mentions, guys that missed the cut. Karl-Anthony Towns did not make my top 25.
Me as well. Yes.
Sorry, Kat. I thought he would just be in it. Like I kind of penciled him in, and then I kept moving guys up, and he just kept falling. Yeah. So it's less of a Cat thing and more of these other guys have been awesome. It's also a little bit of a Cat thing. Jimmy Butler did not make my top 25.
Same here. Yes, I agree. I'm with you there.
James Harden, even though he's having a great year,
I actually had him in my top 25. I had him like 23rd, I want to say, something around there. But yeah, I had him.
Totally fine. You're probably right. I'm probably wrong. I couldn't get him in there. I feel bad about this one, and this is probably wrong based on how he's played this year. But Austin Reeves didn't make my top 25 as good as he's been. He's injured right now. Maybe that's the problem with it.
Yeah.
There's
too many good players in basketball.
That's
the issue here. Like when you're throwing 25, I agree. I didn't have Austin Reeves either.
Okay.
He probably would be 28th or 29th or something like that. But it's just, hey, we're working with this arbitrary 25 number, and that's how it goes, you know?
I hate to say it, Bam didn't make it. It's been a hard year for him. I think he's a top 25 guy most seasons. I couldn't in good faith put him in my top 25 without fear of being called a homer. So I left him out.
Fair. I had him and LeBron at 25, 26. And I was just like, we can decide and debate. And so since you decided Bam is not in there, congratulations, LeBron James. You've made it to the top 25. All right.
If other players come up, we can get to them. Like I didn't really know where to put Joel Embiid, even though he's looked good lately. I left him out. There's other guys on here, but that's really it. Those are the honorable mentions that I felt like were worth mentioning honorably. So let's get to the top 25. Number 25 on my list, I've got Derek White of the Boston Celtics.
I love it. Nice.
I had him as high as I think maybe 20 when I was kind of messing around with these rankings. I settled in on 25. This is where I think I struggle with a guy like Derek White, right? The analytics love him. You watch a Celtics game and you're like, this guy is such a two-way player.
Yeah.
And there's no question about it. The shooting has been up and down for him this year, but he's so impactful everywhere else that it's almost like a process versus results thing. That guy just knows how to play basketball. And I don't worry. I don't think he's suddenly a bad three-point shooter. He'll be fine. Everything will even out. So I don't want to be too like recency bias thing and play just the percentages on him. This guy's a really good basketball player. He's a two-way player. Defends his butt off. Might be having his best defensive season of his career right now, which is saying a lot for how good he's been on that end. The part I struggle with Derek White is he's never a number one option, or very rarely a number one option. Even this season, he'll flirt with it a little bit, but sometimes he's not. Like even when Jalen Brown's out of the game, sometimes he's not the number one option for Boston. Like he doesn't play that way. I tried not to worry too much about it. I tried to lean more into the guy as a two-way player. To me, I think two-way play has never been more important. I think that's going to be really reflective in my rankings here. With guys like Trae Young, John Morant, like these guys aren't in the top 25, right? Like LaMelo Ball's not in my top 25. Derek White is, and I feel really good about it.
So I had 3 different categories here, or tiers, if you will. I had at the very top, I had 5 the best undisputed players in the world. Like to me, there's 5, and then there's a bit of a gap towards the rest of them. Then from 6 to 18, 17, I had all world scorers / Helio guys who are just like these offensive hubs unto himself. It felt like there was a characteristic to the guys that were there. And then from 17 to 25 and onwards, it was the best second options in the world. It just felt like all of them had that characteristic, whether it was, Chet Holmgren, who I have in here in a little bit. I think Pascal Siakam is still a top 25 player. Jalen Johnson, who's a very, very good player, has been awesome this year. Bam was another guy that I considered and had in this category. So that range to me also describes what you're saying with Derek White, where it's like these Swiss Army knife type of players that can fill any role for you, that do so much, that impact the box score, that obviously impact the analytic metrics. And you win more minutes when those guys are on the floor. That's exactly what Derek White does. I think he's such an underrated defender. Obviously, the block shots and everything is something he's known for, but everything he does at the point of attack for the Celtics is very important. And if he makes an all-star team this year, I wouldn't be surprised, to be honed with you.
That's a great call. His on-off numbers are better than Jalen Brown's, who I had higher, right? I didn't just go with that, but
sure,
like not by a little, right? Like by a lot. Like Derek White's on-off numbers are really, really important for Boston. So that's 25. I just wanted to start with 25 as our cutoff point, with the honorable mention sort of below that. So I have Derek White over Towns. I have Derek White over Jimmy Butler. I have him over James Harden. I have him over Austin Reeves. I have him over Bam Adebayo this season. Doesn't make me feel great, but that's where I'm at. Now I don't want to. I'm going to give you a bunch at a time that I think are interesting, and we can kind of debate it within that bunch.
All right.
You asked where I was going to have LeBron. I have him here at 24.
Okay, that's fair. I
have him here at 24. I have him below Scottie Barnes at 23. Pascal Siakam at 22. Chet Holmgren at 21. Alperen Şengün at 20. We'll cut off the bunch there. So now my bottom 20 in order: Şengün at 20, Holmgren, Siakam, Scottie Barnes, LeBron James, Derek White. That's 20 through 25. LeBron way down at 24. Another one of those that I didn't feel great about, but you look at the production this year. I know that he's dealing with a bunch of different injuries and things like that, but hey, you're 41 years old. I assume you're dealing with injuries. That's the rule, not the exception anymore for you.
Absolutely.
This is just who LeBron James is in his career. Defensively, he's not there. It's like him playing defense is a rare thing at this point. Which I get. At this stage of his career. Offensively, he's still a genius, right? He's still the queen of the chessboard, getting everybody in position, all these things. But the shooting percentages have dropped in a way that's meaningful. And I couldn't in good conscience put him higher than this. I think Barnes, Siakam, those guys are just, in terms of those forward types, they're just better than LeBron at this point.
Yeah, I completely agree on the LeBron point. I'm like, I had, and maybe this is a fault of my own, I didn't have Şengün in my top 25.
I'm okay with that. I struggled with him.
Because while I think I understand his utility for the Rockets, obviously, he is their secondary creator, it's passing hub for them. They run a lot of post-ups for him to create. He, box score wise, you can see his numbers, almost a triple-double every single night. Very good rebounder, obviously, as well. The Rockets crash the offensive glass like madmen. He is a big part of that, right? He has not been as efficient this season as you'd like him to be. He's shooting 50% from the field for a guy that mostly takes twos, 30% from three. He's not shooting the free throws that well either. He's 72% from the free throw line. I just feel like he hasn't been as efficient as he could be this year. And part of that is, by the way, missing Fred VanVleet, right? Because Fred VanVleet as the setup guy was so important to him in pick and roll actions. And he could get to 10 easy points every single night just off being a roll man off of Fred VanVleet. That's not there anymore. And so he's had to find different ways, a lot of isolation buckets from Şengün this year. So that's why some of the efficiency isn't there. I struggled with that because I also think in tandem, his defense hasn't been where it was last year as well. And I think part of that is missing Dillon Brooks at the point of attack, missing Fred VanVleet at the point of attack. So that perimeter defense isn't as sturdy as it was this year. Of course, they have Amen Thompson. Of course, they have Jabari Smith Jr., guys who can lock down. But I think it's put a little bit more pressure on Şengün to be a legitimate rim protector. And he hasn't been that this season, in my opinion. Impact-wise, 100% I can see it because the offensive rebounding is insane. You look at the numbers when him and Steven Adams are on the floor, it's absurd. But I struggled with it because I thought some of the other guys on here that I had in that category are just having more efficient seasons, you know? But yeah.
It's funny that you pointed out Şengün here because that's probably the guy I struggled with the most outside of LeBron in this group.
Yeah.
And LeBron was really just like a name thing, right? And I still think that LeBron, when he really wants to, I want to believe that he could still play like a top 10 guy.
Absolutely.
But it's just the consistency part of it with him. With Şengün, there was a point where I did not have him in my top 25. I was with you. The more I thought about it, though, and it kind of gets bad, I was trying to be consistent with like that number one option versus not. Like a guy like Chet is never the number one option. And I do think as efficient as he is and all the things that we love about Chet Holmgren, I love Chet Holmgren. I always come off as a hater when I say this, but like I kind of think we overrate him. Because he's never forced to just do anything by himself. Whereas with Şengün, he's asked to do a lot
by himself. That's fair.
By himself. Yeah. And I just value that. And it's not an opportunity thing too. I think Şengün can do a lot by himself. And I don't think Chet can do a lot by himself. We've seen spurts of it where they'll give him the ball on the perimeter and they'll ask him to kind of go to work. But it's still just like, all right, like Shea or Jalen Williams is going to set the screen for you. Or Dort's going to set the screen. And you're going to go up against maybe the weakest defender on the opposing team, it's still kind of your teammates setting you up there, even if they're not touching the ball in that possession. By the way, with Şengün, it's a lot of just throw the ball in, go to work.
You mentioned a guy who I didn't put on my list who is like Jalen Williams, right? Like I think this time last year, he probably was a surefire top 25 player.
Oh, easy. Yeah.
And then if you talk about June and July, like you're talking about him as a top 15, top 20 player in the world. That just hasn't been the case this year. So I agree with you on the Chet front too. I think that was one of the guys that I struggled with. He's at the later half of my top 25. It's like him. One guy I didn't see you mention, by the way, who I'm curious about, Julius Randle. Because I think Randle has had an absurd year. Like the efficiency is through the roof. He's shooting the ball incredibly well. The offense is there. He's a very good rebounder. I think the passing has been better this season. Like if you look at his actual numbers, he's been incredible. Like I would argue he's been better than Şengün, you know? So that was sort of the decision making I had. It was like LeBron is 25 for me. Bam was 20 or 26 or whatever. I kind of cut off Bam at this point. 24 and 23 were Chet and Julius Randle. And that's where the Şengün element of it came up. It's like, I don't know how to argue the defensive impact of Chet, because I agree with you on the offensive side.
Yeah.
And then for Julius Randle, it's like the all-around game, efficiency-wise, Randle's just doing it a little bit better than what Şengün is doing, to me. But, yeah.
You're probably right. I'm kind of putting in like a larger, like I'm kind of including last year and maybe even, if I'm being honest, a little bit of Eurobasket stuff with Şengün here. But the Randle's an honorable mention that I probably overlooked. I love Julius Randle. I've had real estate on Randle Island basically since he was drafted. I'm a big Julius Randle guy. He likes playing the Miami Heat too, right?
Yes,
he does very much so. I'm not really sure what it is, but he gets up for that. I think it's the Bam matchup. There's something about it. But the other part about Şengün that I ended up kind of giving him the edge. And by the way, I'm not trying to disparage Chet. You know, I have him one spot under Şengün. I have Şengün at 20, Chet at 21. Yeah. The other thing I like about Şengün is, I agree with everything you said about defensively is there. The efficiency numbers aren't where they were last year. He still just wins so many of those margin things. Like the offensive rebounding is so important. He gets to the free throw line.
Yeah.
His assist to turnover ratio for his position is really strong. There's just like little margin things that he does that I just think make such a difference outside of just like the offense defense stuff. But again, I'm with you. Like he was one of those guys that I did struggle with. I feel really good about having Siakam here in the top
Mhm.
25. I don't think that's really debatable. I know that the Pacers don't matter this year and they're irrelevant. Siakam's still putting up crazy numbers.
Yep.
And I saw what he could do for a team that is winning and in playing games that matter. Siakam was amazing in the finals. We're not that far removed from it. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, even though you could put Randall kind of in this spot. I do want to ask you about Scottie Barnes, though. I have him one spot over LeBron.
Sure.
I ended up feeling really good about that because I was like, if you put Scottie Barnes on the Lakers, if you just traded those guys, the Lakers are better.
Yeah, probably.
Right?
Yeah.
Because with what Barnes is providing them defensively at the very least, and then not to mention like everything that he's doing offensively, I love that we're seeing like a bully kind of mentality from Scottie Barnes this season. He's got a little like chutzpah to him that I'm really liking this year. That's to me really important when I see that. Cade Cunningham is kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah.
When you're able to just like get away from overthinking the game and actually have fun and put your emotion and your personality into the game, that to me tells me that you've reached like a higher plane in basketball, that you're able, that you have like the bandwidth to do these other things. Sounds maybe silly, but I really do believe it. With Scottie Barnes, he's doing that. I love the season he's having right now.
Yeah. Chutzpah, by the way, elite word. Such an elite word. Oh, it's just the best. I love using it. It's like he's got to have the chutzpah. Anyways, I completely agree with you with Scottie Barnes. He has an ability to, he's had moments in his career where he would have a week of putting it consistently together. To your point, the bully ball, the defensive stuff, the playmaking. I think he's shooting and he's more efficient this year overall. Like he's had weeks at a time where he's done this, but he has never done it so consistently as he had this year. He is able to do it regardless of the matchup, which I think is a very important sign of him, to your point, like just growing up and figuring out what kind of player he wants to be. Last year was a lot of experimentation for Scottie Barnes. This year, it's more like, okay, how can I apply that science to the team that we currently have? Him having Brandon Ingram has allowed him to like, hey, I don't have to focus on trying to score 25, 30 a night. I'm just going to be able to do everything. To me, Scottie and Bam play similar roles in their teams in the sense that without Bam, a lot of things crumble for Miami. And without Scottie, a lot of things crumble for the Raptors. And you don't always end up seeing the box score numbers jump out at you immediately. Right. But me and you both know Bam is an incredible defender. And Bam is this guy who can really like levitate and elevate, that's the word I'm looking for, elevate a defense to another level. Scottie can do that too. I mean, both of these teams are, I believe, top 5 defenses this season. Yep. That is in part because of those two guys. So they there's like a Swiss Army knife type of thing that they both do, which is sort of like Derek White, your case for Derek White earlier, but in a power forward body, right. Which is just a different version of the whole thing. But yeah.
Let's go to my next little bunch here. I'm going to give you 3 names here.
Okay.
So I've got Evan Mobley at 19.
I did not have Evan Mobley in my top 25.
Interesting.
That might be a hot take. I did not have him in my top 25.
Is that because of expectations going into the season for
partially,
Mobley?
Yes, okay. Partially. So I think for me, it's just like I hold Mobley in such high regard, and what he did last season to create off the bounce, to work as this sort of handoff hub for the Cavs when everybody else was on the bench. It was like the combination of him and Sam Merrill and Max Strus was just unstoppable because, 2 shooters, he was running off of them. And it was just this great thing that he was doing in transition. He was incredible. I haven't seen that as much this season. And we talked about consistency earlier with like Scottie and, putting things together as consistently as you can. The Cavs are expecting Evan Mobley to be something that I don't think he's been this season. So to me, that's why he's not top 25. It's like that level of consistency that they want from him has not been reached, like that. He hasn't met that moment to me in a way that some of these other players have, but yeah.
Totally fair. We were talking, people
I think Cleveland it's fair to put him in the top 20 too. Like to your point.
Yeah.
You're probably right.
Well, I'll give you the reasoning, right? Because the conversation we just had about Şengün versus Chet, to me, Mobley is like the tweener version of those guys, right? Because he is the defender. He's asked to do all the defensive stuff that Chet is asked to do. He ranked defensive player of the year. He's very good at it. But then he does have flashes of being asked to be a real number one option in a way that I don't think Chet is.
Yeah.
And so you get a little bit of the Şengün stuff. To your point, you wanted to see more, but he's still good at it. Like I compared the stats and I was just like, I can't in good like he's right there. And to me, having Mobley, Şengün, Chet back to back to back 19, 20, 21 makes that feels right, because it feels like either one of them could be better than the other one on any given night, but they're all sort of right there bunched up together. So I've got Mobley there. 18 and 17, I've got Jamal Murray at 18, I've got Devin Booker at 17.
Nice.
And the only reason I don't have Murray higher than Booker is because Booker has the track record of doing it longer as a true number one option. I think the degree of difficulty that Booker is dealing with on a night-to-night basis is just higher than Jamal Murray, because only because Murray plays with Jokic. Maybe that's unfair, but I just trust Booker at the end of the day. If you ask me, like, who's a better scorer, Booker or Jamal Murray, I'd say probably Devin Booker. And so I kind of just edged it out there. But Jamal Murray's having a phenomenal season. I think his playmaking doesn't get enough credit, weirdly enough, despite the fact that he plays point guard. People don't think about him in that way because he plays with Joker. And what he's doing right now without Joker on the court, I know he's even missed a couple of games here, but what he's been doing has been huge. And if he keeps doing this for however long Jokic is out, I might flip him. But right now I've got Booker and Murray.
I'm curious. Do you have Lowry Markkanen on your list?
No.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out who you have that I don't. He's on your list?
Lowry Markkanen is on my list. I would have probably put him a little bit later, like in the 20s area. Whereas for like, I think Jamal Murray has had a better season, and I think Devin Booker has had a better season. And to your point about those two guys, I agree with you that Devin Booker just has to carry a bigger load. There's more offensive responsibility with what he has to do, even though Jokic has been out for what I think like 8-9 games now for the Nuggets. And so Murray's had to do more over that little bit. Overall, I agree, though. It's Booker. He's just a more comfortable scorer. I think the versatility as an offensive player is there, too. And, again, he's doing it more consistently. I also, I think after those two, we now enter a different tier, in my opinion. I don't know how you feel about that, but, it's like did you have Kawhi? I have Kawhi in this tier.
I think, yep.
Kawhi, Max,
my next bunch.
Jalen Brown,
yep.
Donovan Mitchell. That's where I'm kind of, that group is sort of, to me,
I hate kind of leaving Devin Booker out of that tier. Like, you could argue he's also in that kind of tier.
Sure, yeah.
But we are, to your point, we are entering that next sort of tier of guys. I would agree with
maybe
you,
the demarcation is like actually in between Murray and Booker, and Booker is in that tier and Murray isn't,
Yeah. One other thing on Devin Booker, I just saw Phoenix. They were just in Miami here, and so I got to spend some time around the team, obviously. The leadership thing with him is real. He's not like that that stereotypical rah-rah guy, but he can be, and I don't think he gets enough credit for that.
Yeah.
But from going where the Phoenix Suns were last year with the lack of joy and all that stuff to where they are now this year, and obviously there's a head coaching change. They bring in Dillon Brooks, who I think has been really underrated for them in terms of just a vibes thing and a physicality and all this. I pointed that out. We do identity changers before every season. I was like, Dillon Brooks is going to change the identity of the Phoenix Suns, because he does with every locker room that he's in, for better or for worse, but he does change things. With Devin Booker, I think he should get a lot of credit for being able to transition from what last year was to what this season is, and provide a little bit more joy, because Dillon Brooks is going to bring chutzpah. He's going to bring that snot factor. He's going to bring all of that. Devin Booker is going to be like, but we can also have fun playing basketball, guys. Right. Devin Booker is, I think he is responsible for that right now in Phoenix, and I think that deserves a lot of credit. All right. How do I want to do this? I'm going to go with the 4 here.
Okay.
Because they all basically play the same position. You already mentioned a couple of them. I've got Jalen Johnson at 16, Jalen Williams at 15, Jalen Brown at 14, and I hate myself for doing it, but I have Kawhi at 13. I wanted to leave Kawhi out. I want to punish Kawhi all the time for lack of availability and poor leadership skills and everything, but then you watch him play and you're like, this guy's Michael Jordan. I don't understand.
Yeah.
And then
the last 2 months has been absurd for him too.
And if it wasn't so, I mean, he was out and then he was in, and now he's healthy. If I felt like there was still some sort of lingering injury where he was going to be out or in and all this, I would dock him. But the fact that he's doing this and he seems healthy, at least for now, and again with Kawhi, he could wake up tomorrow and it's like hamstring, and you're like, all right, great. Yeah. But quad thing, okay, awesome. But for now, he's healthy. I'm going, despite my better judgment, give him the benefit of the doubt here. I'm going to put him higher than these guys. but next week he could be out of the top 25 completely because he's just unavailable again. So Jalen Johnson 16, Jalen Williams 15, Jalen Brown 14, Kawhi 13. What do you think?
I think it's fair. Did you have Maxey in that tier, or is he
Maxey's
higher?
at 12. I was wondering. I'm like, do I want to include Maxey in this bunch, or do I want to wait for it?
Okay, no, that's fair. That's fair. So I in this same tier for you is I have James Harden, Devin Booker, Kawhi. Okay. And then it enters the Maxey, Jalen Brown, Donovan Mitchell, et cetera tier. I had Jalen Johnson a little bit back, but like that's completely fair for you because Johnson has had an incredible year. Like the numbers, the sheer box score numbers for Jalen Johnson have been absurd. To Kawhi, I completely agree that you could have had him off of this list, and I would have said, yeah, that makes sense for the injury concerns and how available he is as a player. But it's pretty non-negotiable and indisputable at this point that when he plays, he is absolutely a top 15 player. So I was like, I just have to put him here, irregardless of when he's available or not. You know, I couldn't
put him higher. Like this is really the only spot for him. If you want to argue that Jalen Brown with the season he's having should be above him, even Jalen Johnson, okay, fine. I'm not gonna push back on it. I just had him here. I would consider myself. I was a little surprised I had Jalen Johnson as high as I did. The box score stuff, to your point, speaks for itself. I think the playmaking part of what he's doing is really important to a point where they felt comfortable to move on from Trae Young. I think that is meaningful. I would consider myself a Jalen Johnson skeptic only because I think there's so much like momentum behind it, like Jalen Johnson, future superstar. And I'm like, hold on. Let's see. Let's wait until this actually translates to winning because it doesn't yet. But he's been really good, and he's been a big reason why the Hawks have won more games without Trae Young. So I think I'm giving him now. I'm kind of starting to transition away from Jalen Johnson skeptic to okay, I'm starting to see it.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would say about Jalen Johnson is that as the offense has developed and we've seen him add different things, the defense has not been what it was. And so some of that like Swiss Army knife utility stuff that he was good at when he was this role player / starter that was coming up is not as present because he's so focused on the offensive end and creation. And by the way, that is one of the most difficult things to do in the NBA is when you are known for being a one-way player offensively or defensively, and now you're asked to be doing both. How do you toggle between those things without absolutely exhausting yourself? I think Jalen, to me, is in a similar category to like Scottie Barnes, Pascal Siakam, kind of like that rangy point forward type who can create and do a little bit of everything, but still needs to get back to their home, which is I was this elite defender.
Yeah.
When he figures that out, I think the offense will probably not be as efficient as it is right now. And so that'll probably like a nice happy spot for him is between 19 to 24 or something along the lines of that compared to where you have 15, right? At this point, I think he's having a top 15 16. Season, right? Or 16. I think he's having a top 16 season. Will he, by the end of the year or even next year, if we have this conversation, will he be top 16? I think that'll be a different story.
That's a great call out. Looking at Jalen Brown is almost like looking into the future for Jalen Johnson, right? Because Jalen Brown did the thing that you were just talking about. Came in the league, was this awesome Swiss Army knife defender, the rebounds off his butt in the playoffs and all that kind of stuff. And then started to get more offense, and then his defense dropped off. And now I think Jalen Brown, he's been asked to do a lot more this season, but you go back to like the last couple of years, it's leveled out, to your point, a little bit. Yeah. Jalen Williams, I ended up giving him the edge over Jalen Johnson because the defensive stuff is there, the playmaking stuff is there. I think he's, even if the numbers aren't there, I think he's as good as a passer, if not a better passer than Jalen Johnson. And I don't care about the shooting numbers because I know he's a decent to very good shooter. That'll be fine. That'll come back around. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt there too. All right. Next bunch. I've got Maxey at 12.
Okay.
And I could have put him higher.
Okay.
I have Durant at 11.
Okay.
I've got Brunson at 10. And I'll give you 9. I'll give you Donovan, and I have Donovan Mitchell here at number 9. So I've got Donovan Mitchell at 9, Jalen Brunson at 10, Kevin Durant at 11, and Tyrese Maxey at 12. I had a hard time with the order of this, if I'm being honest.
This is when I actually started to order.
Okay.
Because I like after 13, 14, I'm like, these are just groups of players. I had Tyrese Maxey 13, Jalen Brown at 12, Kevin Durant at 11, Donovan Mitchell at 10, Cade Cunningham at 9, Jalen Brunson at 8, and then I think you enter a little different category there. But yeah.
So you have Brunson over Mitchell.
Yes, I do.
Okay, I had that at the beginning of the year. I think I had Brunson at like 6 or 7 in my beginning of the year rankings. I love Jalen Brunson. Defensively, he's been an absolute wreck.
It's true. That is true.
And I had to dock him. And I looked, and you look at the stats. I'm like, Donovan Mitchell's having this great year. The Knicks are at the top, second in the East. The Cavs have been like. I just thought if you swap Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson right now, I think the Cavs are worse, and I think the Knicks are better.
Ooh, that's an interesting conversation. Because I think the Cavs could use, the Darius Garland got hurt again last night. But the Cavs could really use Jalen Brunson's like in a pinch playmaking.
Yep.
And I think Mitchell, I completely agree with you that Donovan Mitchell is having an absurd season. And by the way, at this point, we are splitting hairs. Like these are all the best.
I literally have Mitchell 9, Brunson 10. Like I can be convinced to just switch it.
So like Mitchell's scoring has been absurd this season. The fourth quarters, the comebacks, he basically puts the team on his back and tries to win games for them. Absurd. Incredible. I do think what he lacks is exactly what Darius Garland has, which is the playmaking, the off the bounce stuff. And I think Brunson has that. I think Brunson has that playmaking ability that Mitchell lacks. So that's where I go. It's like, all right, Brunson has that extra layer to his game, whereas Mitchell is like a hired gun to be just this professional scorer. And of course, Brunson still has that scoring ability, but he also can add a layer of playmaking. I don't think either of these guys are like elite playmakers by any stretch, but if I had to split hairs here, Brunson takes the edge because of the playmaking. Also, Mitchell's probably a better defender to your point. So that's I guess I
was trying to be consistent with the two-way stuff. Not to say that Donovan Mitchell is this great defender, but I was trying to be a little bit consistent with my two-way take there. And Brunson has been such a mess defensively that I docked him. But you're right. Like Brunson's ability to crash and collapse the defense is so underrated. Like Jalen Brunson, really, when you watch him play, he's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander minus 7 or 8 inches, right?
Yeah,
totally. That's what he is. If he was Shai's size, he would be just as good. I truly do believe that. So, but he doesn't, and for that reason, he is where he is. I did consider moving Maxey up.
I also considered moving Maxey up because I literally have a video coming out on Maxey in like 2 hours. He is absurd this season. Absolutely absurd.
His finishing is great. The playmaking is awesome. He's the vibes captain, the new vibes captain of the Philadelphia 76ers. Defensively, he's better than any of the other guards that we were talking about. The effort that he's put in on that end, he's not top-notch defender, but he's not Derek White, right? But he's better than Brunson. He's better than Mitchell by, I think, miles on that end.
He suffers in the same category size-wise, but doesn't suffer effort-wise, right?
Yeah, like he's fighting over screens. He's doing stuff. He matters on that end, I think, in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
To me, honestly, like you can't even argue with the stats. Really, like if you look at Maxey's stats, you're like, why is he? He's 12. I've got Brunson 10. Like he's not far behind these guys, but you could argue that he should be over him if you really wanted to, and I think it would be a fair argument. To me, it's just I need to see it longer. That's all.
Yeah. In terms of the load that Maxey is carrying, also, you could dispute that. I mean, other than maybe Cade Cunningham, who is the number one offensive engine for the Pistons, like there is not a player in the NBA who isn't a top 5 guy that is carrying as much of a load.
And you could say that for the last 2 years for Maxey.
Truly. Yeah. I mean, leading the league in minutes per game. His usage isn't where it is, but that's because they're running more off-ball stuff for him. And I talked to Nick Nurse about this when they were in Toronto, but they're running way more off-ball screens. He's probably the most efficient off-ball shooter outside of Steph Curry. Like that, it's absurd to hear, but that's true just because of how awesome he's shooting, like 47% on catch and shoot threes this season. Honestly, I'm kind of convincing myself at this point to move Tyrese Maxey a little bit higher.
We can move him up. Move him up. I think you're right about this next tier. So we're now in the top 8 here.
Yeah.
I've got Steph at 8.
Okay. I've got Steph at 7. Sure. Yeah.
I'll give you a bunch of 3 here. I got Steph at 8. I've got Cade Cunningham at 7. I've got Ant at 6.
Yeah.
You had Cade lower than 7.
I had Cade at 9. Sorry. I had Jalen Brunson ahead of Cade.
Okay.
So I think there's still and to your context matters here because I think Cade is still one of those guys that probably could be in a better offensive context, where he isn't the sole creator for this Pistons team. And, outside of Duncan Robinson and Tobias Harris occasionally, and Isaiah Stewart has learned how to shoot the ball, like spacing is still a pretty big issue for the Pistons. And so Cade is working in a closet of space at this point. So his turnovers and efficiency relatively to what his usage is isn't where you'd want it to be. Now, I agree that context matters here. So if you were to throw Cade on the Knicks where there are multiple shooters and it's 5-out spacing, are you getting a much more efficient type of season from him? You probably are. So I don't have an issue with putting Cade higher. It's just, I guess, season for season, I would have Brunson over et cetera. Yeah.
So Cade's averaging 27, 10, and 6, basically.
Yeah, it's absurd. Yeah.
Their efficiency numbers, you'd like them to be a little bit better. But this is one of those instances where, to your point, like you watch these Pistons games and you're like, that guy, I don't know how many players are better than this guy. And he is doing a lot with less, right?
Yeah.
Like his second scoring option. It's like, who is it? You know?
It's Jalen Duren, right?
It's Jalen Duren.
Stuff,
it is, right? And a lot of that, and he's only the second option, not to take anything away from Duren, who I did flirt with a little bit in my top 25. I couldn't quite get there, but defensively, Duren's been awesome this year.
Yep.
He might be most improved for me this season. It's basically him or Keontae George. But with Cade, he's kind of making Jalen Duren the second option, right? Like Duren's not creating a ton by himself. Jaden Ivey's had spots, Duncan Robinson with the spacing is important, but like they don't really have that guy. So for Cade to do what he's doing, I just think it's tremendous. And then defensively, he could be better, but he also has moments where he locks in fourth quarters and stuff, and he's just able to hit a level that these other guys aren't. I was a little surprised I had him over Steph, but again, I was trying to be consistent with this two-way thing.
Yeah.
And
his size helps him, right? Like him being
size helps.
6'7" or whatever it is, really helps him be a solid defender around.
And I did end up docking Steph because the turnovers are just crazy for him this year. They're just absolutely wild. And I think he's cost them like a lot of important possessions this season. I'm going to punish him. He's 8. I'm not punishing him that hard. It's still Steph Curry, but I did drop him a little bit from where I used to have him. So, Anthony Edwards I have at 6.
I also have Ant at 6. I have no qualms about that. I'm with you. Yeah.
You mentioned the tiers thing. You said you think there's a clear top 5. I agree with you.
Yep.
I think there's a clear 6, and I think it's Ant.
Okay. So you would solidify Ant as 6. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, I think he's solidly 6 now. And I think Cade, by the end of the year, could creep into that one-man tier of Ant. And I'm okay if we want to put Steph in that tier too. Like if we want to just throw Steph in there, we probably should because he's not gonna be lower than these other guys.
Yeah.
So Steph's probably part of that tier with Ant.
I think this tier that we're currently talking about, the Ant, Steph, Cade, in my opinion, Jalen Brunson, like this group of players,
I'd put Brunson in that tier. Yeah.
On any given day, can be and match those top 5 guys.
Agreed. That's a really good way to put that.
And even in a playoff series, they can raise and elevate their level to match those guys. But consistency and just sheer dominance, and like maybe Ant eventually gets there. I really could see Ant being a part of that conversation, to your point. But there's just something that these 5 guys do that you look at it and you watch it and you say, there's no one else outside of these guys that can impact the game in the way that these guys are doing it. And I think all of them have their warts, right? They all have certain flaws to them, I would say. But at the same time, they're just so impactful with what their number one skill is that I think they have to be a clear, distinct top 5, but yeah.
I like how you put that. Like each one of these top 5 guys has this crazy superpower. Like these are the X-Men of the NBA. You're just 100%. like nobody else does what you do. You are this mutant. You have this. You're Cyclops. This is the thing you do better than everybody else. So let's just jump right into it. One last thing on Ant. I do think that there's a potential for him to jump into the top 5. My worry about Ant is he's turning too much into his favorite player sometimes in Kevin Durant.
Mhm.
Whereas when Kevin Durant was at his best, he was maybe the best player in the league. I never really had him number one, but he was in that tier.
Yeah.
As Durant has gotten older, he's just basically turned into professional scorer, and he's still amazing at it. That's why he's 11. But the playmaking thing isn't really there for him. It never was. The playmaking thing for Durant was never at that same level as LeBron, which is why I always had LeBron higher than Durant in my personal rankings when both of them were sort of vying 1-2.
Absolutely.
But with Ant, he has the potential to do the playmaking stuff. He's starting to get there. This last 2 weeks for him have been really promising. I'm watching Minnesota games. He's more consistently making the right reads, but I just want to see it longer for Ant. I just don't want him to turn into ultimate 3-level scorer, which is amazing. It's why he's here at number 6. He's just physically dominant. But that physical dominance also lends itself to be this incredible playmaker where he's able to get to the rim, kick out to shooters. He's never going to be Luka or LeBron or Jokic or Halliburton. He's never going to be that level of a passer. But because of his physical gifts, he can kind of have similar production. And I want to see that more from him going forward. So that's how he cracks the top 5 in my mind. Top 5. I immediately had a hard time with this.
Yeah, a little bit. I have a pretty solid top 3.
Okay.
And then
I do too.
And then 4 and 5, I'm just you know what? Depending on certain things, this could flip any day now.
So I've got Wemby at 5.
Yep.
And I have Luka at 4.
Me too.
Okay. I really considered swapping these.
Me as well. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Because I felt crazy, but when I was thinking about it, so I think we had a very clear top 4 going into the season. I think Wemby crashed that group, and now we have a top 5.
Yep.
And I was already there, and then I was like, do we actually need to swap Wembanyama and Doncic because of how great Wembanyama, his X-Men superpower is defense.
Mm-hmm.
He's able to vaporize the paint. Just, you don't get it. You just don't get it. When I'm on the court, you don't get to have it. And the impact on that, I still think we don't fully understand it, but the best way to probably put it is that they keep beating the Thunder, except for earlier this week. Luka, offensively, the efficiency has not been as good. It's one of his highest usage rate. It's a lot of usage stuff for Luka. The numbers are amazing. He's number 1 in the league in scoring. The assists are what they are. All these things. He's doing a lot with a really flawed Lakers roster, so I am giving him the benefit there. Defensively, he started off strong. It's not been as good lately, I think is putting it nicely. I really thought about it would have been really good podcast material as to just put Wembanyama over, and I could have cut this out for social, but I couldn't get there in good consciousness. I couldn't do it. But by the end of the year, we might be talking about Victor Wembanyama as a better player, and I do think maybe the more interesting part of this and the honest conversation is just that, right? We are now approaching that kind of territory with Victor Wembanyama in just this early stage of his career.
Wemby is still in his Bambi legs era, where he doesn't fully understand his superpowers yet. You see moments and stints where he does it, and this goes back to the consistency conversation we were having with some of these other guys. On a night-to-night basis, Wemby still doesn't know what kind of offensive player he can be, and he had a stretch like the first half versus the Thunder earlier this week where he's dunking everything and you see the sheer size that he has. Same thing against the Celtics where you're like, okay, he understands what kind of basketball player he can be. But then he has stretches where he sort of disappears on the offensive end and likes to flow within the offense of the Spurs, which is egalitarian in its own way. But putting your imprint on everything the Spurs want to do offensively is kind of that next step for him. I agree with you on the defense. He's the best defensive player in the world. How do you put that all together on a night-to-night basis? I think availability is also another question for Wemby moving forward. It's
Great point.
Can he stay healthy? But to your point about Luka, at some point you're going to have a tough conversation about, is he, and this is funny because the Mavs literally traded him for this exact reason, but is he a good enough defender to be able to lift a team to a championship? You know, he's sort of an idealized version in terms of usage and creation and working in a bad context to what we were just talking about with Cade Cunningham, where they're in a tough spot, but they're doing everything they can. And sure, they have flaws to them efficiency wise and whatnot, but the downside to Luka is that he's just not a good defender. And that requires so much papering over roster wise that I don't think you have with Wemby. With Wemby, you can plug and play him wherever, and he will have that same level of impact defensively, and offensively he'll figure out his spot. So that's where I think eventually, to your point, yes, Wemby will take over Luka. And how will he enter this conversation with the other three that we have, who I think are solidly the top 3 players in the world?
Yeah. I am getting away from my two-way kind of commitment here by putting Wemby under Luka.
Yeah.
But at some point, at the end of the day, the most important stat is still points. The most important thing that you could do for a basketball team is create shots, not just for yourself but for also for others. And Luka just does that at the highest level in the league outside of Jokic, you could argue. And Wembanyama, that's offensively still just something that he's not doing. The only reason he's creating a shot for himself sometimes is because he's so tall that every shot is available to him. And he's not creating a ton of stuff offensively for his teammates consistently, to your point. But yeah, we have him at 5 here. Ultimate hat tip to Victor Wembanyama. He could be even higher by the end of the year. All right. Top 3.
The 3 best. Yes.
I'm going to go from 1 to 3 on this one. I'm going to swap. Okay. I got Jokic still at number 1. Don't care about the injury. Having a tremendous season. He's the best player in the world. I've got Giannis at 2.
Wow. Okay, this is where you hedge. This is where you switch it up.
This is the surprise.
All right.
I've got Giannis at 2. I've got Shea at 3.
Okay.
I went back and forth on it, and then I just kept like, who do I really think is a better basketball player? I think it's Giannis. And you look at the stats, his efficiency is off the charts. The season he's having is incredible.
Yeah, it's absurd. Yeah.
Defensively, I think Shea is good defensively. I think it's really hard to look at the defensive metrics for both of these guys because everything around Giannis is just like a trash can on fire around him defensively. And with Shea, it's whatever the opposite of a trash can on fire is. It's just this pristine museum of amazing defenders just around Shea that you're just able to oogle and ogle at all the time. You're like, oh, a Lou Dort over here, a Jalen Williams over here. I've got Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein behind me. Oh, Kason Wallace is just grabbing the ball and taking it away where I don't even have to defend on this possession. So I threw all the defensive metrics out. I just threw them all out. I don't care about them because against Milwaukee versus Oklahoma City, these defensive metrics you can't compare them.
Yeah, of course.
Giannis is an awesome defender. He still is this incredible weak side help guy. He's asked to do so much defensively. The net rating on-off stuff with Giannis on the court versus off the court is just crazy. Like this is a top 5 offense, or no, it's the number 1 offense in the league when Giannis is on the court, despite the fact that his second best player is like AJ Green or something. And defensively, they're actually top 15 when Giannis is on the court, and they're the worst defense in the league when he's off the court.
Yeah.
That's maybe more of an MVP type of conversation than a qualitative, like, who's the better player. But that just does speak to just how good of a two-way guy Giannis is. And he's averaging as many points as Shea almost, and he's shooting 10% better from the field than Shea. He's awesome, man. I have him at number 2. He's dominant.
I think that's an entirely fair argument. Basically, the argument here is, would you rather a guy, specifically offensively, would you rather a guy who can do one thing amazing, incredible, or a guy who can do 3 things very, very well? Like, I think Shea is the best all-around scorer in the NBA.
Agreed.
And he's improved his 3-point shot to the point where it's like, this is a actual weapon that I could use consistently. Obviously, the best mid-range scorer in the NBA. He lives in the paint, much like Giannis does, but in a different way. And so that same rim pressure, same paint pressure is there, but he just adds the wrinkles of mid-range shooting, of 3-point shooting, to the point where you really have no answers. You have to pick your poison when it comes to guarding SGA offensively. I concede the defense point because I agree with you that if Giannis was in a better context, in a better team, like, throw Giannis on the Miami Heat, which I'm sure you'd love to do. Throw him on the Miami Heat, and man, you will see his defensive numbers look incredible.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a virtue of roster and context and everything like that. I just, what's that? I think it's a Bruce Lee quote where it's like, I fear the man who has practiced one kick 1,000 times versus the kick that was practiced 1,000 times. That's the point you're making with Giannis, where it's like he is a battering ram and nobody can stop this battering ram. Whereas Shea is more like arrows that are being thrown at you from multiple directions. And I guess it's just preference on what you like, what you think works better in a playoff series, context wise. I would probably lean Shea in a playoff series just because of, to your point, and what I'm trying to say is the 3-level scoring.
Yep.
It's way more important in the postseason. And Giannis requires such a specific context around him to make what he does work. Whereas I don't think Shea needs that as much offensively. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
You're absolutely right about the offensive stuff with Shea. Like, there's no question he's a better offensive player than Giannis. I don't think, even though I just quoted a bunch of offensive stats for Giannis.
Yeah,
I
but
would push back on that. Giannis needs a specific context. I think he's just so freaking dominant physically that you could just kind of you could probably throw him on the Detroit Pistons and he's probably doing close to what he's doing now,
probably.
right?
Yeah.
So he's been that good. To me, it was just like the defensive stuff and that level of dominance, like the Shaquille O'Neal-like attributes that he has. Like, it's just absolutely crazy that I put him at 2. Am I doing a little bit of this just for the podcast?
The podcast,
maybe a little bit. I couldn't quite get there with Luka and Wembanyama because I didn't really think I could back it up with Giannis. I think I could back it up a little bit, but it is a clear top 3. And honestly, if we're being honest, it's kind of a clear top 1, and then it's like a 2-3 maybe.
Yeah.
But Jokic is awesome. He's number 1. End of story.
Yeah, there's no disputing that. I think even when you saw Shea have his perfect season and MVP, Finals MVP, win championship, etc., like, you still knew that what Jokic does as an offensive player. I mean, all the things that I just said about the 3-level scoring, you add also maybe one of the best playmakers of all time to that.
Yeah, 3-level scoring and then tilting and moving the court however he sees fit.
Yeah. There's just a manipulation to what Jokic does that no other player in the NBA can do. And yeah, he's the best. Absolutely.
Yeah. And even defensively, it's been a little bit up and down for him this season defensively. He's still really tall and really wide and really strong. And the rebounding is really important for him. I think that's an underrated part of his game, even though he's averaging basically a triple-double this year. And you still watch Denver Nuggets games, and the fact that he is a large human matters defensively. Yeah. Could he be a little bit more mobile? Could he be positioned better? Yeah, sometimes, right? Like, he's not if you get him in the air, he's not really contesting your shot, which is why I think Anthony Edwards has like a particular kind of advantage on him sometimes. But he's still really big, and that matters, and that's all a factor in all of this stuff. Okay, top 25. How do we feel?
I feel good, man.
We got pretty close, I think.
Yeah. I feel like for the most part, we were pretty on point for all of it, right? Especially when it got to the top 10. It was just like, this is a very clear top 10 or top 15, whatever you want to call it. And eventually, it goes based on what you prefer, what you prioritize in a basketball player. But yeah, we were on point. Worked out.
I think looking at it, I have a really clear top 12. Like, these are the 12 best players in the league. I feel really good about it. I've got Jokic, Giannis, Shea, Luka, Wemby, Anthony Edwards, Cade, Steph, Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson, Kevin Durant, Tyrese Maxey. I think you put Jalen Brown in that also.
Yes, I would put Jalen Brown in there. Yeah.
I feel really good about that as my kind of core. Hey, these are the 12 best guys in the league. We can debate and have fun with the order of it, but that's really it. And then I think you said one of the best things earlier in the show. It's like, after that, like, you have this tier from like 12, 13, 14, 15 to like 20. You could argue to 30. Yeah. You could throw a bunch of different guys in there. But I like the order that we have. Thanks so much for jumping on, man. You can find his work over at the Athletic NBA show. Anything else that you want to plug? You mentioned you've got the Tyrese Maxey thing coming out.
Yeah, that's also on the Athletic NBA's YouTube channel, so you can check that out. Just talking about Maxey, breaking down his game. He's been awesome. Yeah, appreciate you having me on, man.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yes, sir.